Speedsters, welcome to a video which is, as it's literally titled, everything we know about The Flash Season 7 so far. I thought I'd compile everything into one video. Some of these things you may have heard before, some maybe not, but either way, this is basically everything, to my knowledge, that we know about the upcoming season. And there's actually some very, very recent updates that I want to talk about in this video that has to do with filming, and it's kind of unfortunate news, but either way, let's get into this video. But one thing I would love to ask from you guys, it really does help out, especially during this kind of little period where not too much is going on with shows, movies, news, all because of the virus. I feel like the summer period is now in the fall period, if you know what I mean. I would really appreciate a like. Also, maybe some video suggestions down in the comments below, because until The Mandalorian releases, of course, amongst doing update videos, the typical stuff like that, there's not too much going on, and I want to tackle what you guys want to see on this channel. But of course, guys, let's begin with the synopsis. I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but hey, this isn't everything we know, so let's start off with the premise of the season. And I'm going to kind of cut it into the back half because that is where the main juice starts to happen. So, with help from the rest of Team Flash, which includes superheroes Caitlin Snow, Cisco Ramon, actually this is an old kind of synopsis, so I'm guessing they've updated it because it did say Ralph Dibny, hardly saw it, rip. Other than that, and Nash Wells, as well as the Flash's adoptive father Joe West, Meta attorney Cecile Horton, tough cub reporter Allegra Garcia, and brilliant tech nerd Chester P. Runk, Flash will ultimately defeat Mirror Master, but in doing so, he'll also unleash an even more powerful and devastating threat on Central City, one that threatens to tear his team and his marriage apart. Yet, still to this very day, that final line is really intrigues me. But going off the latter of that synopsis, we did learn at DC Fandom quite recently that Godspeed will be returning, but not only that, he will be one of the main villains to Eric Wallace's graphic novel approach to seasons. And also, fun little tidbit here, Godspeed could be a girl, because he did say in the DC Fandom panel, "We never caught the real guy or girl." Not that this should really necessarily be read into a whole bunch, but then again, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if they did gender bend Godspeed. Now, going further along the Godspeed teasers, Godspeed is angry at the Flash for some reason. This is what Eric Wallace teased about that. Godspeed, unlike the Reverse Flash, has no emotional connection, and this is the interesting word he used, and very much so emphasized, supposedly, to the Flash. He says, the question is, why is Godspeed angry at the Flash? So I've talked about this in a previous video, just to cut it very quickly, where he says, obviously how Godspeed, unlike the Reverse Flash, has no emotional connection, supposedly. I basically think they're going to write that emotional connection in for some reason or another, and more or less give us a new, innovative story from Godspeed that you're used to seeing in the comics. So obviously they're going to adapt some things, but they're going to have a fresh take on it, and that is actually what Eric Wallace said himself. They've got more to say. Next up is that episode 20 of Season 6 is partially the first episode of Season 7, but that is a very common knowledge thing when it comes to the upcoming season. Now, this is the very recent thing, in that The Flash was supposedly, I believe it was, meant to begin its filming for Season 7 October 1st, which is actually today when I'm recording this video and probably uploading it. However, news did break in the past day that CW shows Riverdale, Batwoman, Nancy Drew, Charmed, and this is what is stated, Warner Brothers Television is also delaying production to the CW's The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl, both of which, as I just said, were supposed to begin filming this week, and this is due to delays in processing tests for the virus. So yeah, I'm really, unfortunately, it looks like The Flash is being delayed according to the major trades now amongst the other CW shows out there, and for the reasons that kind of do make sense, because if they can't get a hold of a bunch of tests, and this is a production where they need to make sure nobody on set, from the cast to the camera crew to whoever, doesn't have the virus, then they can't really push forward if they can't take that preventative measure. So unfortunately, until more tests come through, it looks like it's going to be delayed, because I was going to go on to say originally in this video, hopefully in November we'll be seeing more prominent promotional material around then, but now this may be subject to change because of the virus. Because obviously if they were filming October 1st today, we would have maybe have had a little bit of something to play with in the upcoming upcoming months, but it looks like for now at least there's going to be a little bit of a delay until we do get some more tangible things from The Flash until it starts filming. Now next up is Reverse Flash talk. Now the cliffhanger for season 6, if you guys remember, was going to be a thing. They literally said there was going to be a Thorn Reverse Flash cliffhanger, but Eric Wallace said not too long ago in an interview with Discussing Film that at the end of The Exorcism of Nash Wells, that was indeed a setup for what happens next. But obviously, you know, in terms of talking about the Reverse Flash and future storylines in season 6 and what's been reworked and stuff, he didn't mention anything about continuing that. So whatever this cliffhanger was, it was indeed benched. Like, because he was talking about when will we see him again, and he was basically saying, oh, you know, like he's always around kind of thing, but there was no mention about the continuation of that Thorn cliffhanger. You could say he's just being super secretive, but I really think, considering that was a part of the original plan for the finale of season 6, and there's no mention about when we see him next, other than teasing that we will, because of the whole season next year being, you know, to do a lot with Speedsters. Yeah, it looks like it's been completely benched, and that's kind of disappointing to hear for big Reverse Flash fans, but that doesn't mean that the cool storyline they may have had in mind with that cliffhanger won't still be coming. I'm sure it will be, but some point later in the season. But next up, going off of that, in that answer, as I just kind of teased, he did say that Speedsters do have a huge role in season 7 of The Flash, and he says, yet again, there will be 2 separate sets of big bads for each of those individual stories. It's going to be fun, but a little crazier, because one thing that we haven't done on The Flash really since even seasons 1 and 2 and 3 is really look into the Speedster mythology, Speedster villains, things of that nature. So that's one thing that's always got me excited about this upcoming season, because Eric Wallace has reiterated this quite a few times. I can't trace it through my head right now, but this isn't the first place he's talked about the mythology of Speedsters in season 7 being a very big thing. So obviously amongst Godspeed being one of the big bads, and obviously hopefully getting to address that Reverse Flash cliffhanger that was meant to be happening at the end of season 6, I'm sure we're going to learn a lot really about Speedsters next year. And considering Barry's making a whole new Speed Force, this may be the season that fans finally get really sucked back into The Flash. At least that's what I'm banking on, because, well, fans of The Flash have been craving some mega kind of speedster mythology for quite a few years now, and that's exactly what Eric Wallace acknowledged here. Yeah, and as he said, since we haven't really done that since seasons 1, 2, and 3. So hopefully it's going to be awesome. Now, next up is about the Flash suit. I honestly think it is almost literal perfection, as the CW like to kind of go with that line, but I'm not even joking. It looks amazing. I really love this suit. However, it is still missing one thing, and that is gold boots. Now, at DC Fandom, we finally got a little bit of an update on that, and the answer is kind of someday. This season, never say never. It could be season 8, but Eric Wallace says that, you know, they will be coming. He promises that, but they must be earned, like a story to go with them, I suppose. But they're just gold boots. so I mean, I kind of get where he's coming from, but they must be earned. They're just gold boots. They're just gold boots. I don't know what story that he's going to write for it, because they are, at the end of the day, as I keep reiterating here, gold boots. So it's like really like what kind of difference is there going to be in terms of just, you know, including that into an update of the costume. But I'm guessing they're going to maybe get Cisco to introduce some technological kind of speedstery kind of cool thing, that some property that goes with the sheen of the gold on the boots that makes it relevant for a story. Otherwise, it's just like, why not give him the update? Because it's not like they're changing the whole suit, they're just changing the bottom, little bit at the bottom. So yeah, can't wait for that, and they are coming. It's just they need to be earned, apparently. And hopefully that means that Eric Wallace does write something in the latter of The Flash Season 7 in one of those episodes where they can be incorporated. If not, it does look like it could be Season 8. Next up, Ralph Dibny, the elongated man, is kind of gone. Basically, he will be gone, but Sue will be staying. So in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Eric Wallace did say that the beauty of comic book stories and superhero stories are the conventions that heroes come and go, but they never fade away and they never disappear. disappear entirely. So we're going to treat it like we would if we were writing a comic book graphic novel. Eric Wallace loves referencing the graphic novel approach in one way or another, doesn't he? But we're giving the elongated man a bit of a rest for a while, but we will leave the door open. Who knows what the future could bring? It is unknown, but I'm not saying by any means that it's the end of the character. In fact, quite the opposite. We just don't know when he will return or in what form he will return, and that's the beauty of comic book stories. It keeps it fresh, and a lot of fan speculation to do with that is that Ralph has the ability to change his face, and the easiest story point I can think of is that for some reason his face gets permanently stuck on whatever new iteration or disguise temporarily that he chooses. But yeah, he just gets stuck with that face. But that would be a bit kind of, it's kind of sad. Imagine being that hero and being stuck with somebody else's face that isn't yours. But I guess for the behind the scenes reasons, it's fairly obvious as to why they may do that one day if he comes back in season 8 as a different actor. But as for Sue, you're going to see Sue more than once this year, even without the elongated man, on her own, making appearances and helping Team Flash in an unexpected way. And it's just going to be hilarious because she was so much fun. Now we can expand her character and give her more backstory and more growth in ways that we hadn't initially planned. It's really exciting to see how she's going to interact more with Team Flash once her name has been cleared, because we are going to clear her name, obviously. But then what's the reason for her to come back to Central City? And that's going to be a bit of her story this season. And just on that note, even though this isn't to do with what I just discussed with Sue, I really wonder what it is they're going to do about Ralph in terms of a story point, in terms of writing him out of the Flash, because he's not going to be here for some time. Easiest way for what I thought when this whole behind the scenes news broke about Ralph Dibny, or should I say, Hartley Sawyer, is that he wanted to protect Sue from obviously being exposed because she had been framed. So he was just going undercover with her, and he decided to go on the run with her. But as Sue is staying in the show, very intrigued and would love to hear your ideas as to what they're going to do to write off Ralph Dibny from the show for the foreseeable future. Next up, Joe's storyline this season is inspired by the societal changes happening in today's world. Eric Wallace felt like there was a great opportunity here with everything we're all waking up to each day in 2020. As for Iris, Iris could actually have some residual resentment, potentially, due to how long she was in the Mirrorverse for, and that Barry and Iris will find their way back to each other eventually. And these are literally words from Candice Patton at DC Fandom. She didn't confirm it, but like, you wouldn't kind of say that out of nowhere. And that doesn't really bode well for me in terms of I don't want a salty Iris coming out of the Mirrorverse, especially when she knows that Team Flash were trying to do everything they could to get her out. And I'm guessing this is what she said on top, and that there will be some effects on Iris due to being in the mirror world with Ava, she refers to as this maddening villain. So that could be as to why Barry and Iris will find their way back to each other eventually. Maybe after getting out of the Mirrorverse, she's not exactly the way she was because of the effects of that. But if she really has some residual resentment for whoever in Team Flash or whatever, maybe it's just a situation for how long she was in there, that would be a bit annoying. But we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, we have a new Team Flash member, a permanent one, kind of, I guess, and that is obviously Chester P. Runk. Personally, I did like the vibes of him. I think he does need to be a bit more low-key with the eccentric kind of way he acts on the show, but other than that, I like him. As for Cecile, her powers will actually evolve to be something a bit more active, rather than what were described before as passive. Apparently, she's going to struggle with it, find her own way with it, and actually get into some trouble with it along the way. And now lastly, will The Flash be ending with Season 7? Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it's being talked about a little bit, and I've already actually made a whole video dedicated to this, but don't worry, it won't be ending this season. Grant's contract ends this season, however, he is in talks for Season 8, and maybe even possibly extending it to Season 9, because those were his actual words, and those negotiations that were taking place between Grant Gustin of what he described were taking place well before the pandemic kicked off. And as I said, he wasn't only talking about Season 8, but also just 2 more seasons till Season 9. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that other actors will stay, because that is an interesting factor. Someone like Candice Patton may just be like, nah, I'm going, and then the show would be forced to write out Iris. It's probably likely she will stay, but you never know. Someone like Tom Cavanaugh may feel like he's long past overdue leaving because of the amount of characters he's played. I personally don't feel that way. I know some people do. But yeah, a lot of contracts end in season 7, but the show can always stay on if Grant Gustin stays, because the titular character is his role, the Flash. So yeah, personally, I think that it should probably end in season 8. I do feel like the show is getting a little bit past its sell-by date, unless this season really does prove me otherwise, because it could really get back on track to the season 1, 2, and 3 vibes, which would be amazing. But if it is more of season 4, season 5, and season 6, which I don't think I need to pretend to anyone has a lot of issues, then yeah, as I just said. But that is basically everything that we know about The Flash Season 7 so far. Unless I really am forgetting something obvious, that is the main gist of everything you need to know. The only things that will change, I believe, is when we actually do get some more future promo material. Whenever they decide to release a trailer for maybe episode 1 and 2, some footage from that, once they finally do get to production on that. But now, obviously, they're in delay. I would love to know what you're most excited for with The Flash Season 7. I think maybe I can predict quite a few answers, in that it might be similar to mine, in that we're finally getting a heavily emphasized season of speedster mythology. God, there's so much potential with that. But other than that, guys, I really appreciate a like so much, especially if you got this far. Yes, you, right now, watching this video, click the like button. I'd really appreciate that. And other than that, big shout out to my patrons. I really do appreciate the Patreon support on the channel. It really does go back into the channel and helps me create these videos, as well as the join button members. Thank you all for just, anything you do to support the channel in terms of going outside the box. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.